السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Let me just link to this. Wa alaikum assalam wa barakatuh. Hey guys, oh mashallah, 10 folks already. I was, oh mashallah, 33 people. Oh, that was kind of fast. How you guys doing? Oh mashallah, 47 people. That was unexpected. How you guys doing? Inshallah, you guys are all right. I was talking to a brother earlier today. And by the way, is the sound fine? Wa alaikum salam. Is the sound all right, guys? All right, I'm trying to get an answer here. I'm getting too many salams and not enough people telling me if the sound's fine. Is the sound all right, guys? Okay, alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. Okay, it took a while. The comments are taking a while to come up. All right. So I was talking to some brothers earlier today, or excuse me, one brother earlier today, and he was saying to me that from the perspective of non-Muslims, we have a major issue when it comes to consistency, and that is in regards to our stance when it comes to accepting and rejecting hadiths. So I decided to make I don't know, I think this is going to be short, inshallah. But yeah, I was hoping to answer some questions that you guys have in regards to hadiths. That's mainly it. So first of all, what I want to get across is that al-hadith, the science of hadith, is a science. It's a systematic method that revolves around a subject, and yeah, like it fits into the definition of science. Now, what I'd like you guys to keep in mind, or at least what the brother was explaining to me earlier, is that when we reject a hadith, when we reject a specific report, non-Muslims seem to assume that this is us just rejecting what we dislike, and we accept the reports that make Islam look pretty and make Islam look nice. And no, this is not really the case at all. There are a lot of reports that we accept that can be used against us. And similarly, there are a lot of reports that we reject that we could use, that we could use for us, but we simply reject due to the reports not meeting the standards of authenticity. So an example, a famous example, very, very famous example, and maybe this will be shocking to some of the folks watching in right now. There's a famous report that when the Prophet, peace be upon him, and Abu Bakr were escaping from Quraysh that were hot on their trail, and they were migrating to Medina, they basically hid in a cave. And the report says that a spider or two or a few spiders came, and they basically put their webs around the cave. And some doves came and they laid some eggs in front of the cave. And due to this, the Qurashis, who were hot on their trail, they said, oh, okay, surely there's no one in this cave, because there's a spider web here and some pigeon eggs here, or dove eggs here. And they must be long gone. They must have took another route, and they basically looked elsewhere. And that's one of the ways that they escaped from the clutches of Quraysh. Now, in reality, this narration is weak, and therefore you have many scholars pointing out its weakness. Even though this can be used, this report would be used by some to say, oh, you see, this is a miracle from the Prophet. This was a miracle that was used to preserve Islam, to preserve his life. But in reality, this never happened. And due to this, Muslims reject this report. Or, excuse me, I don't want to say Muslims reject this report, but many Hadith scholars reject this report and call it a weak report. Yeah, so that's one example that comes to mind. Let me think of an example of Hadith that is used against Islam that, well, many Hadiths against Islam that we accept. Okay, so for example, common famous report. Well, yeah, very basic things. Very basic things. Let's say that, for example, Rasulullah ﷺ allowed mut'ah marriages during the conquest of Khaybar. Every Muslim accepts this report, even though this is a report that will be used against Islam. So no, it's not an issue of inconsistency. The problem is when a non-Muslim looks at this topic or looks at the field of hadith and sees a Muslim rejecting a report, they are aggravated, and they say, and because it makes it harder. It makes it harder for a non-Muslim to deal with a Muslim, because a Muslim is rejecting something I'm bringing against him. He must be inconsistent, and of course, this is not the case. If you're not familiar with the science, then please do come and do ask, and we are here to serve, and inshallah we will be providing satisfactory answers. Keep in mind that ilm al-hadith, due to ilm al-hadith, Islam, the history of Islam is in a better state than any other history. We know more about the history of Islam, and we have the ability to verify what occurred historically better than any civilization. Walhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Yeah, so those were a few thoughts that I wanted to share. And inshallah, definitely there will be some more on this topic. But guys, if you have any questions about hadith, then I'm here to serve. Okay, so someone's asking, please explain what Sahih by Albani means. Does that mean that he's the first one to authenticate? Why so late? No, Albani is not the first person to authenticate hadiths. Many people have preceded Albani in authenticating hadiths. But what made Albani so special is that he revived hadith in the 14th century after Hijrah, when hadith sciences was a science that was not really focused on so much. So what Albani did was he looked through, or he went through the four Sunan Abi Dawood, Tirmidhi, Nasa'i, and Ibn Majah, and he simply said, and he simply classified the narrations within these books into Sahih and Da'if. And again, many people have done this before Al-Albani, but he just had such a major impact on contemporaries that we often find his name everywhere. But you can find the gradings of Shu'aib al-Arnaut, for example, everywhere, if you looked. You can find the gradings of individual editors. You can find my gradings as well, depending on you stumbling upon one of my works. So yeah. Okay, so excuse me. There's some questions that seem relevant, but the scrolling is occurring too fast. Okay, so Saif Tawheed is asking, I know the range is big, but is a weak hadith closer to being inauthentic than authentic? And what's your opinion on acting upon weak hadith about virtuous actions? Okay, that's a very good question. A weak hadith is closer to being, well, here's the thing. it depends on the hadith itself, right? But by saying the hadith is weak, we simply hold the view that there is simply not enough evidence for us to accept that this is from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So, for example, weak hadiths come in many forms. Um, so, for example, you do actually have fabrications that fall under the umbrella of weak, and you have narrations that are slightly weak, and as you said, the range is quite large. Well, it's that's a huge topic. Now that I think about it, that is a huge topic. But generally, the simplest answer is a weak hadith is a hadith with insufficient evidence for us to accept. That's the short answer. And my opinion on weak hadiths and virtuous actions, I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan, because if you cannot attribute this with a degree of certainty to the Prophet, peace be upon him, then usually there's a lot that comes with a hadith being authentic. It's not just usually the action. Sometimes it will cause other issues. Sometimes it will cause some sorts of contradictions, authenticating weak hadiths. And a lot of the issues that we have in these matters, in matters of fada'il al-a'mal, in matters that revolve around conflicting narrations, are due to authenticating weak hadiths. All right. I hope that's a satisfactory answer. I do not have a problem if you upload my videos. Please go ahead. Barakallah feek. Okay, so a brother asks, I'm assuming it's a brother, is it permissible to reject hadith that contradicts the Quran? Now, the thing is with that is that a hadith should not contradict the Quran. This should be impossible, right? If a hadith is authentic, okay, so if you have a hadith that contradicts the Quran, there are a few possibilities. It's possible that the hadith is not authentic. However, there is a possibility that it's your understanding of the verse and your understanding of the hadith that causes the two matters to contradict. So often there is a possibility of reconciliation. If the hadith is authentic, then there is always a method to reconcile, because it's not possible for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to contradict what the Prophet, peace be upon him, teaches, vice versa. There's no way that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam could contradict what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reveals in the Quran. Okay, what are the different types of methods of criticizing hadiths? Is there different schools of thought of hadith sciences? You will find different rulings here and there. Different like opinions in regards to some general matters. So for example, Hanafis and Hanafis mainly. I don't know if I want to say Malikis, but you'll find some that are more lenient with certain types of reports, like Mursal reports. Mursal reports are reports that are disconnected at the level of the Tabi'in. So basically, there's the assumption that they heard from the Sahabi. So you'll find some things like that. Of course, there are some Hanafis and Malikis that do reject this, that will say no, that that disconnection, no matter where, cannot be accepted, and therefore the connection needs to be established in all levels of narrators. So you have that. You do have some differences of opinions here and there. But generally, in the general ideas that revolve around hadith, so the basic idea is the narrator needs to be reliable, and so much, the majority of ilm al-hadith and what has to do with that, revolves around this one basic concept: the reliability of all the narrators. So yeah, since I'm just noticing it's 195 people, I'm touched. I'm touched, guys. Barakallah fikum. Yeah, so basically, generally, the vast majority of what ilm al-hadith is reliability of narrators. Of course, there's a lot more to it than that, but to a large degree, the authenticity and the weakness of a report will revolve around that. Will revolve around, is the narrator reliable or not? And then you have modern matters that, like for example, the مذهب المتقدمين والمتأخرين, or excuse me, منهج المتقدمين في علم الحديث and whatnot. And that's a topic I'm not going to get into. And that's maybe a topic for Abdullah Mu'taz if he feels like it someday. I know I'm throwing you under the bus, ya Abdullah, but that's the price you have to pay for not returning my calls on time all the time. All right. Are there hadiths from Ahl al-Bayt, especially from the major hadith collections? If not, why is that? Yes, there are a lot of hadiths from Ahl al-Bayt. There are a lot of hadiths from Ali. There are a lot of hadiths from Ibn Abbas. There are a lot of hadiths from the descendants of Ali, from Ali Zain al-Abidin, from Muhammad al-Baqir, from Ja'far Sadiq. These are some of the most common hadith narrators that come to mind from Ahl al-Bayt. And yeah, you find them in our major books of hadith, like al-Bukhari and Muslim and whatnot. So that's something to keep in mind. Okay, I've read that classification into mutawatir and ahad hadiths is an innovation and should not be done. How true is this? That's a very interesting question. And I don't know if I'm going to answer that, but you might want to check out حاتم العوني's المنهج المقترح في فهم المصطلح. It's a very good book on that topic, and I will admit that he changed my view on that matter. But the concept of mutawatir, either way, is a correct concept. But yes, it doesn't fall under ilm al-hadith. If hadith is mutawatir, it doesn't fall under ilm al-hadith. That's mainly it. Okay, can we reject giant Adam hadith as it goes against anthropological and scientific evidence? Now, what does that entail? Does that entail that the size of man has decreased with time? Wallahu a'lam. Wallahu a'lam. I've even seen Ibn Hajar criticize that. And what I found very interesting is that most of the reports from Abu Huraira don't include that addition that says that man's size decreased with time. So maybe that addition is problematic. Wallahu a'lam. That's something to keep in mind. How to deal with Sahih Hadiths which seem to go against observation. Again, maybe the Hadith isn't Sahih, and maybe our understanding of the Hadith is a problem. But here's the thing, guys. If you believe in the message of Rasulullah, if you believe in Rasulullah, then there cannot be a conflict. Either he did not say it, or we did not understand it. And Ilm al-Hadith solves a lot of problems. Believe it or not, Ilm al-Hadith solves a lot of problems. Because simply going through multiple variations of one report, you will find um, where additions are being included, or sometimes you'll find different variations of wordings. Some wordings are problematic and some wordings are perfectly fine. So sometimes the muhaddith will have a solution that you won't find with the faqih or the philosopher or the usuli or whatnot. Another thing I wanted to mention earlier on is that why did the scholars include weak hadiths in their books? That's a question that the non-Muslims ask quite a bit. So the first thing you guys need to be aware of is that we don't have 6 books only. We don't have just 6 books. We've got a lot of books. We've got a lot of early books. We've got, apart from the 6, we've got Musnad Ahmad, Muwatta Malik, Sunan Darimi, we've got Sunan Daraqutni, you've got Mustadrak al-Hakim, you've got Mu'jam al-Kabir al-Tabarani, al-Awsat al-Saghir, and يعني, we just have too many works. So the question is, why 6? And even before that, why 2? Why the Sahihain? Why the Sahihain? Why are they referred to as the Sahihain? You have other books that are called Sahih books, right? So you have Sahih ibn Khuzaymah and you have Sahih ibn Hibban. Why aren't they called Sahih al-Arba'a? Why is it just Sahihain? Well, mainly it's because scholars had an issue with their methodology, with their lenience, mainly with their lenience. They felt they were somewhat lenient compared to Bukhari and Muslim. And due to that, we've always looked at the authentic collections as al-Bukhari and Muslim, even though Ibn Khuzaymah and Ibn Hibban intended for their works to be sahih. Now, what about the other 4? What about Sunan Abi Dawud wa Tirmidhi wa Nasa'i wa Ibn Majah? Were their works intended to be sahih? There's no evidence for that. You find, for example, Abu Dawood pointing out to the name of a random narrator in the chain, saying, this guy's weak, by the way. You have a Tirmidhi quoting hadith and then ending the report by saying that this person is munkar, or this report is munkar, this is a rejected hadith. So what does that imply? We understand from this that they did not intend, none of these 4, Abu Dawood, Tirmidhi, and Nasa'i, and Ibn Majah, none of them intended for these works to be classified as sahih from beginning to end. A Tirmidhi will go out of his way to say, this is an authentic report. And he will go out of his way to say, no, this hadith specifically is weak. He goes out of his way to grade every single report. The other 4 don't do it as often. So yeah, briefly, the argument that's brought forth is, you Muslims, your scholars have been collecting these hadiths because they believed in these hadiths. Now, they say in their works, I'm speaking about these 4. These 4 have outright said this hadith is not reliable, and sometimes they say nothing. When they say nothing, does this mean that they believe in its reliability? Not necessarily. Yeah, so that's something to keep in mind. Why 6 books? Well, it has to do with efficiency. If you want to get as many authentic reports as possible in the shortest amount of time, then you go through these 6 books. Are there authentic reports that exist in other works? Yes. For example, Musnad Ahmad is a fantastic work for reliable hadiths. However, it's so huge. It's so huge, it's going to take you a very long time to get through it, because Musnad Ahmad is around the same size as all 6. Maybe a bit bigger, a bit smaller. But yeah, it's around the same size as all 6. So it's not efficient to go through Musnad Ahmad. And it has a large number of weak reports. Sometimes these hadith scholars will include a report in these works. Like Imam Ahmed, he will include a weak report in his Musnad, and he will say in other works that this is a weak hadith. Yeah, so that's something else. All right. Can you go to Speaker's Corner? Well, if I'm in the UK, then why not? I'd love to. Abdullah ibn Abdullah, that's very interesting. If you could, so I'm guessing, is that in his sharh of Sahih Bukhari? If it is, then I'm quite interested to check that out. All right, there's an interesting question here, but it seems like it's gone. Okay, so here's a question. Just like there are inauthentic hadiths, do you think there are missing hadiths? I mean, hadiths that haven't reached us. Definitely, there are definitely hadiths that haven't reached us, and because a hadith is whatever the Prophet ﷺ says or does, or a description, right, or his affirmation. So definitely, there are definitely things describing him that haven't reached us. There are definitely things about his sayings. I mean, the Prophet ﷺ spoke a lot in 23 years of da'wah. So surely there are things that he said that hasn't reached us. However, we do believe that when it comes to matters of deen, we have received all of that. And that has to do with the preservation of the religion. And by necessity, we do believe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has preserved the deen in that way. All right, so some folks are asking about how to study hadith. Well, if you know Arabic, then it's easier, alhamdulillah. What I did was I just randomly read random books on ilm hadith. Randomly. So Ibn Salah's Muqaddimah, obviously, it's a wonderful work. Ma'rifat Ulum al-Hadith by Al-Hakim. For those that don't know Arabic, a book that a lot of you guys have is a great source, which is Sahih Muslim. Read Muslim's introduction. Read Tirmidhi's last chapter. They're quite useful if you're interested in learning about ilm al-hadith. What you find in books of ilm al-hadith to a large extent are mainly definitions and explanations of those definitions, which is why you should attempt to get into the practical study after becoming aware of some of the simpler definitions. And it's only through practical study that you'll grow. And of course, the theory is really important. The theory gives you a lot of perspectives, a lot of perspective on why things are the way they are, and all that. But practical is extremely important. Is Albani a reliable grader because Sheikh Ibn Uthaymeen said he is not that good? Well, Albani is greater in Ibn Uthaymeen in grading hadiths. I haven't really seen much from Ibn Uthaymeen when it came to contributions, even though, by the way, I do love Ibn Uthaymeen, but truth be told, I haven't seen too many of his contributions in the field for me to take that statement or to give that statement a lot of weight. Okay, so how does chain of narration works? It was very simple. If you are someone who's living in the 2nd century or 1st century or today, you cannot attribute something to Rasulullah ﷺ without falling into the chain. if I wanted to lie about a report, people are going to take it from me. They're going to take the report from me, and by default, I fall into the chain. And basically, each person in the chain narrates from the person above him or her until they get to the Prophet, peace be upon him, or until they get to whomever they're attributing the report to. So, in brief, that's how a chain works. And then it's all a matter of studying the people in the chain, um, making sure that there are no disconnections, making sure that there are no hidden defects. And that's a large topic, perhaps for another time. I'm trying to keep this simple, guys. What's the difference between a Hasan Hadith and a Sahih Hadith? Oh, so you ask most people, and they'll just tell you that the Hasan Hadith is a Hadith that is a lesser form of a Sahih Hadith. It's reliable, but it's not that reliable. That's the general definition of al-Hasan. But if you're looking into what Tirmidhi meant by al-Hasan, because al-Tirmidhi is the person who made a Hasan Hadith, the definition of al-Hasan famous is Tirmidhi, and that's a large topic that maybe is not best for this discussion. Oh, subhanallah, just like a few comments under that. What does a Tirmidhi mean by Hasan and Sahih? Yeah, guys, inshallah, some other time in regards to a Tirmidhi and what he means by that. How were the books of Hadith, example, Sahih Bukhari, been preserved? Do we have isnads for the books? Well, subhanallah, we have, I don't know how many thousands of manuscripts of Sahih Bukhari around the world. And more or less, they're identical. And due to that, preservation is established. And yes, a large number of them do have asanid. And we can actually go through the reliability of the narrators of those asanid. However, we don't need to. In reality, the vast number of manuscripts for Sahih Bukhari speak for themselves. Okay. So this is a strange question. Do every Sahih Hadith is every Hadith Sahih true? Do I really have to believe all of them? Sometimes I find them really misleading, and that truly forces me to become Qur'anite from inside. Please help me out. Okay, so what a scholar refers to when a scholar refers to a Hadith as Sahih, does this mean that Rasulullah ﷺ definitely said it? Not necessarily. However, we should not fall into a trap, which is rejecting a hadith simply because we don't like it. Rejecting a hadith because it sounds weird to me, and therefore all hadiths are false. I mean, think about it. Are you going to reject all of Islamic history because of some reports that don't fit your values or your morals or your understanding of the world? That's something you have to be cautious about. In regards to levels of hadiths, or in regards to authenticity in general, there are narrations that all scholars accept as authentic. And there is no room to reject those reports. And if you reject those reports, then you're being untrue to yourself. Because at the end of the day, who are you to reject a report without a reason? If you have a reason, then great, right? If you have a real reason, a reason that has to do with the system, right? You can't just say, hey man, this hadith doesn't really fit well with me. My 21st century Western values don't fit with this hadith, and therefore I don't believe that Rasulullah ﷺ said this. And here's the thing, to be honest, in regards to becoming a Qur'anite or a Qur'anist or a Hadith rejecter, you're going to have a lot of problems if you do that. I don't think that, I think that those that do so wouldn't last long as Muslims, because so much of the proof for Islam comes from Hadith. Yeah. Assalamu alaikum. When I discuss with Muslims, can I use hadiths from a website called Durar al-Saniya because it is the best website for a hadith grading? And Durar, there are, yeah, I remember you, you punk. I remember you. It's nice to ask questions and be civil, isn't it? Okay. So I will answer your question because yeah, you asked in a respectful manner, but yeah, in my eyes, you're still a punk. But for this time, I'm gonna be nice to you. All right. It depends on a lot of factors. It depends on who you're quoting. Sometimes the grading will be from a scholar who isn't really seen as someone who's too authoritative. So, for example, you go to Durar al-Saniya and you find Al-Haythami, for example, authenticating a hadith, or saying Rijal al-Hadith Thiqat, for example. This doesn't really mean much to those who are students of knowledge in the field, because Al-Haythami is extremely lenient. He authenticates or he sees narrators as reliable simply if they're not mentioned in Mizan al-I'tidal or something like that. He so it depends on what you're quoting from Ad-Durar al-Saniya. Yeah. What you can do is if you have a large number, for example, or very credible scholars of hadith that you found in Durar al-Saniya, then yes, you can say to the Muslim that you are arguing with, you can say, well, you see, al-Bukhari relied upon this hadith, Muslim as well, Tirmidhi said هذا حديث حسن صحيح, and al-Albani authenticated as well, Sheikh Muqbil also authenticated, so yeah, Muslim, you have to accept this hadith, what are you doing? Then, yeah, go for it, man. All right. What are the problems with Joseph Schacht's criticism of hadith? Wow. I would recommend reading Azmi's work on Schacht. He's got I forgot what it's called. I think it's called on Schacht's Muhammadan's jurisprudence, if I'm not mistaken. Wallah, I can't recall what it's called, but he's got a very powerful response against Schacht's work. Schacht seems to be someone who believes in like hadith conspiracy theories to make sense of out of Islam in order to basically get out of the problem of the reliability of hadiths. You see, if these hadiths are indeed reliable, if the hadith system is a correct system, if what's graded as authentic, if what's seen as authentic is truly authentic, then it does make Islam true, and there's no way around it. And you can't say, well, maybe there were mass hallucinations, or maybe people were influencing one another through. None of that stuff is going to work if hadith science is if hadith sciences are legit. So Schacht had to truly turn into a conspiracy theorist by arguing that what was it? If a report can be found in like a 2nd century source without an isnad, then anything that can be found with an isnad is a fabrication. Some garbage like that. Which it seems like even like modern or more contemporary Orientalists see as like way too much. I believe Motsky even responded to some of his stuff. So yeah, Motsky is very, very fair in comparison to like um, folks like Schacht. Oh, interesting question. Someone's asking me if the grading by Abu Layth is reliable. Abu Layth, هذا زنديق that no one should trust. Abu Layth picks and chooses gradings based on his desires. Abu Layth will go through a biography that includes like 10 opinions. So, for example, this is what Abu Layth will do. He'll say Bukhari, like, said this person is reliable. Muslim included him as sahih. Daraqutni said he's reliable. And Nasa'i said he's reliable. Ibn Hibban praised him specifically, not just including him in istiqat, but he said it's mustaqim al-hadith, for example. Abu Hatim, Abu Zur'a graded him as reliable. Everyone grades this guy as reliable, except for some random guy, like, let's say, Imam Murrah. Imam Murrah said that this person is weak. Abu Layth will accept Imam Murrah's opinion over everyone for absolutely no reason other than him not liking the hadith. So if you want to, if you want the methodology of, you see the non-Muslims that are accusing Muslims of being biased, the non-Muslims are accusing Muslims of picking and choosing whatever they like. That is Abu Layth. They're referring to Abu Layth, and they're confusing Abu Layth with the rest of the students of hadith, and the rest of the ummah, the rest of Islam, sadly. All right. Free Kakakuta. Is that your name? Free Kakakuta? Oh God. I wonder if our good friend is watching this. Okay, so there's a strange question which says, can we reject the hadith in which the Prophet says, do not narrate after me? I'm not aware of a hadith that says, do not narrate after me. So that's a strange one. Do you think that Jewish Christian tradition influenced hadith literature? Well, hadith literature is so vast. Hadith literature is so vast. You have everything in hadith literature. Israeliyat fall into hadith literature. So Israeliyat are reports that quote, for example, or go through mainly ex-Jewish Muslims. So, for example, Ka'b al-Ahbar will narrate some matters that have to do with Bani Israel and the prophets of Bani Israel. So yeah, that falls under hadith literature. Sometimes some falsehood will be attributed to the Prophet, peace be upon him, and that's where these scholars of hadith will come in, and they will look into these narrators, and they will look into the defects of these reports, and they will point out that no, this is a false report, and this does not belong in the authentic hadith, in authentic hadith literature, if you may. I don't know about Bassam Jarrar. I haven't seen him much. Ibn Hisham is a great source. Now, Ibn Hisham being a great source doesn't mean that everything in Sirat Ibn Hisham is authentic. Yeah. So when I'm praising a source, I'm not saying you should accept everything in the source. Yeah, Emin. So Emin just came, and I'm like trying to get to a freaking live show with Emin for God knows when, from God knows when, and I messaged him earlier, and he doesn't respond. And this is what you get, Emin. I'm on here solo. Okay. Um, you guys and the Morra stuff. Subhanallah, I had no idea this is gonna that this would turn into this. Do we still have hadith scholars who memorize hadith with isnad? Yeah, I need to some extent. What they'll do is they'll memorize their isnad to like the major works, but to be honest, there's not really much of a point. And if it's something one would do to for two reasons: for baraka, one, and to flex. But in reality, there's not really too many practical reasons to narrate a hadith with an isnad. Hey Melkor, what's up, buddy? You got any questions? You're gonna try to act civil? I'm giving you a chance here, bro. Farid, can you explain why Hanafis reject certain hadiths from Bukhari? I don't know, man. You need to share the hadith and we need to go through it. Vaqas, I just answered that. I don't know, maybe 15, 20 minutes ago. Am I doing a series on David Wood? Maybe in the future. I'm not really planning to now. What do you learn when you say hadith? You learn why you follow Islam. You learn why you're following what you're following. You appreciate why scholars accepted hadiths as authentic and why they rejected hadiths as weak. When you learn hadith sciences, everything starts making sense. Before that, you're just going with the flow. So it's a very important field, and I strongly suggest getting into it. I mean, yeah, I wouldn't know how to function if I didn't learn ilm al-hadith. And but yeah, that was me. I was too curious. I was so curious that I just had to get into it. Ibn Kathir isn't 100% sahih, no. Truth 888, that's very nice to hear from you, bro. And I wish, yeah, you see, here's what I like about this. No one is like, I mean, some of you guys get nasty in the comments, bro. I mean, adi, like I got a strong heart, but it doesn't help. It doesn't help against atheism. It doesn't help achieve greater understanding between Muslims and Christians. And I got no beef with Christians themselves. I wish guidance for them. How many videos have you seen of me attacking the Bible, Christianity? I got a lot to say. But and it's not my field. It's not my priority. But I'm receiving a lot of hate, not for attacking the Bible, not for attacking Christianity, but I'm receiving a lot of hate because a lot of people like Christian Prince. A lot of people love Christian Prince. And yeah, what I have to say about Christian Prince hurts them. Okay, so this is a very interesting question. And this is going to be controversial, oh God. Is Madkhali a good sheikh? I see a lot of people hate on him, but I didn't do research on him. In regards to ilm al-hadith, Sheikh Rabi al-Madkhali, he's got some good stuff, and I suggest checking it out. Just because one may not agree with his methodology in general, or perhaps his opinions in regards to some scholars, doesn't mean that you shouldn't take knowledge from him. I took knowledge from him. I benefit from him, and may Allah reward him. What are, okay, this is an interesting question. What are mu'allaqat and are they in Bukhari? So mu'allaqat are reports that um, the mm, the compiler skips the early narrator or early narrators, so his sheikh basically, excuse me. So the scholar would skip his sheikh or his sheikh up until the yani, a few sheikhs in the chain. Um, that's what a mu'allaq hadith is. And what was the second part of the question? Oh yeah, is it in Sahih Bukhari? Yes, it's in Sahih Bukhari. And Ibn Hajar has an interesting book called Ta'liq, in which he completes those reports, providing connected chains for them. Um, it can be argued, well, actually, like a stronger view is when Bukhari includes a chain that isn't complete, that is mu'allaq, then Al Bukhari is not arguing for it. So you don't have to take it as authentic or reliable. Do you know if Sharh Al-Aqid al-Tahawiyya, written by Ibn Abil Az, is authentic? Well, it's not a book of hadith. Excuse me. So the question is it authentically attributed to him? Well, yeah, but is everything within it authentic? Are all the opinions within it authentic? Um, I'd like to say yes, because something I studied and something I enjoyed, but يعني والله أعلم. I'm a fan. I'm a fan of Ibn Abil Az and his work. What's your opinion on best chain of hadith? Yeah, أخي, it's such a this is subhanallah, أخي, this is a question one would ask Abu Zur'a and Imam Ahmed, and they would answer that. أخي, don't ask me that, man. I don't know about Al-Bukhari whirling. Excuse me. What was this? I don't know about. Excuse me. I don't know about Abu Bakr whirling. I don't think he ever whirled. So I got nothing to say about that. What's your opinion on satanic verses? There is not a single authentic hadith about satanic verses. And you see, so many scholars have spoken against the satanic verses. This is something very important to keep in mind, guys. Many scholars have spoken against the satanic verses. However, the scholars still included the report in their works. It doesn't mean that they believe in it. Furthermore, the narrators of hadith quoted what is used for Islam and what is used against Islam. Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. Ahl Sunnah do not just quote what supports them, they quote what's against them as well. And that shows you how objective Ahl Sunnah were in collecting reports. I don't know much about Wasim Yusuf. I haven't heard too many good things, but yani, Allahu Alam. I don't know. I haven't seen much of his stuff, but like I didn't care when that stuff was happening. When the whole Wasim Yusuf thing was happening, I wasn't really. I didn't really care much, so I didn't look into it. Okay, let's see what else. I'm not familiar with Akram Nadawi's contribution to Hadith. I'm sorry to say, but I'm not. I didn't really care much about يعني, looking into Akram Nadawi. So I don't know. Maybe he has contributions, major contributions. I don't know. I haven't looked into it. So if there are major contributions, if there are any contributions at all, then may Allah reward him. But I don't know. So I can't answer that one. Free Kakakuto. You know, these Muslims, they have the weirdest names. Why he call himself Rika Kakuta? Guys, okay, brothers asking, is Musnad Ahmed 16,245 true? Yahi, I don't have Musnad Ahmed memorized, bro. So I can't help you there. Can you switch to slow chat? I don't know if I can. Can I? I don't know how that works, man. Allah يبارك فيك يا بدرو. Inshallah, we'll maybe, man. A small world, akhi. World is small. Okay, so Abdullah bin Abdullah asks, all hadith collections seen together, are there more sahih hadith or da'if hadiths? There are more hadith, there are more, there are more da'if hadiths than authentic hadiths. And that just goes to show you how rigorous and critical the hadith scholars were. And if you want an idea, just look at Al-Bani's Silsila Sahiha wa Silsila Da'ifa. You'll see that his Da'if is larger, and all his, all these works that try to gather. Yeah, so for example, Sahih. Well, this isn't really a hadith thing, but Sahih al-Tabari, Da'if al-Tabari. If I recall correctly, Da'if is quite large in comparison. What is one argument you would use to prove reliability of a hadith to a Quranist? Yeah, that's a different topic for a different time, man. Maybe some other time, inshallah. Quranists are the easiest people to deal with. I once spoke to a Quranist and he was quite upset, man. It ended really fast. And it's just they just don't understand hadith. They don't understand how the Quran works. They don't understand qira'at. They're the least knowledgeable when it comes to the compilation of the Quran. They're just dealing with a text that they feel came out of nowhere and popped into existence, and due to that, they can't hold a proper conversation on the topic. Yeah, it ends really fast if you know your stuff. All right, I have a question. I have a question. Where is Melkor? Where are these CP fanboys? Because I got a question for you guys. I've been answering questions for a while. I got a question for you guys. I don't know, yeah, Tinwir. I'm interested, Tinwir. I'm interested to look into it. So I'm quite curious as well. I'll look into it, inshallah. I'm not familiar with Rasulullah SAW kissing his nephew on the mouth. I do not recall anything like that. Truth 888. I have a question for you, bro. And Melkor, I got a question for you. I got a question for both of you guys, if you guys don't mind entertaining a question. Do you believe that now? This isn't a question about Christianity. I'm just simply curious. After 107 accusations, do you believe that at least in some of my accusations that I was correct and that Christian Prince is a liar? Allah يبارك فيك Adam. All right, guys, I'm waiting. I don't know if this is really laggy or he. Okay, la 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 la. Truth. I'm not. Truth 888. I'm not asking if he makes mistakes. I'm asking if he has lied. And I just want you to be. I just want a truthful response, bro. This doesn't mean that Christianity is false. It doesn't mean that Islam is true. I just want you to let me know if you believe that after 107 accusations that he dodged most of it. He's only attempted to respond to 6. Do you believe that he has lied in some of these? I don't think I'm going to get an answer from. Wait, did Melkor answer? Melkor said, "Yes, I come on my own accord." I don't get what that means. Please be sincere, guys. And Waqidi was not reliable. Freedom of the people. Are you a Muslim or? I'm curious. La habibi. Come on, man. What do you mean white lie? Okay, truth. Listen up, bro. Listen up, bro. He says that Al-Fatiha says اهدنا الصراط المستقيم. Okay? Come on, bro. I'm not يعني you're not throwing CP under the bus. All right? Yeah, يعني be truthful with yourself, bro. Just be truthful with yourself. It doesn't mean that you're ending Christianity. Christianity is all about truth, isn't it? So I want to know your answer. And where are you, Ya Melkor? Where did you disappear to? Where these guys go, man? These guys are gone. طيب, you don't have to answer. You don't have to answer. يا أخي شنو يا أخي truth white lie is اهدنا الصراط المستقيم. Teach us the way of farting in Al-Fatiha. This is a white lie. I can't help you, man. Melkor said yes. Did Melkor say yes? Thank you, and thank you for admitting that, and I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Thank you, Melkor. And the truth, I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed. But yallah. Thank you, Melkor, once again for having the bravery, because I can tell that you're a big fan of Christian Prince, and I want you to think about it. Is this someone? And I know that you hate Islam. I know that you hate Islam, and I'm sure that anyone that listens to Christian Prince for long enough will hate Islam. And if I did not have the knowledge that I have, then I surely would hate Islam as well. So thank you for admitting that. And I would advise you to take even your anti-Islamic knowledge. I'd advise you to take it from somewhere else. There are a lot of people that hate Islam out there that are a lot more fair than Christian Prince. So yeah, once again, I appreciate you admitting that. Musawwir, I'm both. I'm self-taught to a large extent, but I have studied under some very respectable major mashayikh. So yeah. Will you join Emin's Muslim Twitter Discord server? Maybe not now. Maybe in the future. Wallahu alam. Not now. Is al-Bukhari 100% authentic, or can it contain da'if hadiths in chain or matan? It's an interesting question. But that's a lengthy topic, maybe some other time. Okay, is CP the worst critic of Islam? I think CP may be one of the worst critics of Islam. One of the worst critics of Islam. I'm not familiar with too many, but I'm gonna be very honest with you guys. If I was asked to get 100 lies by apostate prophet, I wouldn't be able to. Apostate prophet is ignorant. He's confused. He's not familiar with the literature. But I don't recall him lying too many times. I recall like one specific instance where he misquoted something in a very bad way, and I thought to myself, I think that he may be lying here. But I can't say that about him. I can't say, oh, this guy's a pathological liar. I can't say that about apostate prophet, even though he makes mistakes, like major mistakes all the time. But in regards to Christian Prince, I easily collected 100 lies, and I could do 200. I could do 200. I didn't go through all his videos. I went through, I don't know, like 30, 40 videos or something like that. In some videos, he would lie like, you saw that one video where he's talking about how he lies 11 minutes in 1 minute and a half. The whole Imam Murrah thing. So yeah. Who's the next victim? Next victim maybe Abdullah Samir. Maybe, but it's not going to be anytime soon. I'm not planning to do this anytime soon. Abu Musa, screenshot Habibi. I do not think I'm going to continue making videos about CP. I think I've done enough with CP. Yeah. I think that if 100 accusations aren't going to be enough, then I can't help it. I can't do anything about it. So yeah. I am not a scholar. I'm not a scholar, bro. La, bro, come on. Have you ever met any of the ulama such as Uthaymeen, Ibn Baz, Fawzan, Al-Albani? Like, they all died before I became too interested, Habibi. Salih Fawzan is alive, and may Allah preserve him. But no, I haven't had the chance or pleasure of meeting him. شو أقول لك يا محمد ناصر يا أخي الله المستعان بس. سي بي يحبني في إبليس يا أخي. Okay. Started pursuing ilm when I was around 22, 23. The reason I started pursuing ilm is because it wasn't intentional, by the way. It wasn't intentional. I started pursuing ilm because I wanted to know why hadiths are seen, why authentic hadiths are authentic. That's the only reason I started getting into ilm. And that's it. And one question led me to another, and another question led me to another. And for some reason, some odd reason, right now, I got 234 people watching me talk about ilm al-hadith. It's something I never thought I'd be able to do. I was just reading casually, mainly. Yeah. Yeah, Grim Jiao, I suggested مقدمة صحيح مسلم وعلل الترمذي and maybe شرح علل الترمذي لابن رجب. Those are really fun, and I envy you. Guys, I want to share another thought, very important thought about Ilm al-Hadith. شرح علل الترمذي by Ibn Rajab is a beautiful book, and you learn about the methods of rejecting a hadith, the reasons to reject a hadith. And Ibn Rajab provides so many reasons to reject a hadith, really a lot of reasons. And when he's done, and you're going through the book, akhi, you will feel hopeless. You will feel hopeless. You're like, there are no hadiths left. There are no hadiths left, and everything's going to be weak. And that's it. You feel depressed by the time you're done with Sharh al-Tirmidhi by Ibn Rajab. And then he says towards the end of the book, he says, and now that you feel this way that you're feeling right now, what do you think of the hadiths that the ulama have graded as authentic? Those surely must be authentic hadiths. Yeah, it's a beautiful book. So it's something I'd recommend you guys checking out. Nawawi's Arba'in it's a good set of reports to memorize. I haven't memorized them, but yeah, it's a good place to check out. Man, I'm getting a lot of random questions. Hadith al-Walid bin Uqba, if I'm not mistaken, is weak. Wallahu a'lam. But some scholars used it to argue that he was a fasiq. Wallahu a'lam. Wallahu a'lam. I think Ibn Hajar rejected that, or was it Albani who rejected that? I'm not sure. Wallahu a'lam. Okay, so this was I feel like I'm not sure about the question here. You ask that after 107 accusations, do you think that CP is a liar? Don't you have confidence in the job you've done? I don't call him a liar. Instead, I find you to be evasive and unreliable. Okay. Wallahi, akhi, I'm confident in the job I've done. But the problem is that he's got too much love. He's received too much love, and people will give any excuse to get out of it. And sadly, even today, right here today, you had someone saying that these are white lies. So yeah, I'm not going to set up a Patreon. I have no interest in receiving money for this. Allah barak fikum. Muhammad Suhail, there are too many. There are too many books that study the transmitters of hadith. There are just too many, and they're all in front of me right now. And I could mention 30 names just by looking at them on my shelf. But yeah, to answer your question, there are just way too many. Allah yabarak fikum. Saqib, what I mean by mutawatir not having anything to do with ilm al-hadith is that the scholars of hadith of the past didn't look into that. If a hadith was authentic, it's authentic. They saw mutawatir as a reason to reject hadith. So for example, someone would say, this hadith says this, accept it. And you'd have someone who doesn't want to accept it, he would say, is it mutawatir? So the term was used originally to reject reports for being singular. The problem with that is that you could do that with pretty much anything you don't like. So the whole mutawatir thing, the origins of mutawatir is very shaky. I'm not saying that mutawatir is useless. Mutawatir is useful if you want to definitely end a discussion or prove a point, and to show how much weight a report has. But I'm referring to original usage, first of all. it had nothing to do with Ilm al-Hadith. And I don't know who first included it in books of Ilm al-Hadith. I can't recall. Maybe Al-Khatib, Wallahu alam. And I think he does say that it has nothing to do with Ilm al-Hadith, if I'm not mistaken. I do not have a job in this field. This is, I guess you could call it a hobby. I don't know much about the Muslims in Indonesia, Yahi. I'm not going to share my story with my love story with Emin. I honestly don't recall much about the way I met Emin or the way I met too many people. But Emin, mashallah, he's one of the few brothers that has put in 100%, and I deeply respect him, and I appreciate him being along with me in my journey. Okay, what would the Bible narrations be graded as? Almost all Bible narrations would be graded as mursal, and some would be graded as weak due to anonymity. Al-Khatib al-Badadi. In regards to the Prophet ﷺ licking Al-Hasan's tongue, if I recall correctly, Uthman Khamis actually weakens those reports. He has a book on the reports about Al-Hasan and Al-Hussein. If I'm not mistaken, he did weaken that report, but I'd need to look into it. But here's the thing, guys. People that hate Islam are going to turn everything sexual, right? Naturally, but there was like, if such a thing occurred, it's not done sexually. So just keep that in mind. It's a weird thing to us, assuming that it did happen. But from what I recall, the hadith is not authentic, and you should check out Uthman Khamis's research on the topic. I am not a hafiz. I'm not a hafiz. Yeah, I do believe that Al-Waqidi is a liar. So whoever quotes him needs to stop quoting him. Okay, so this is a very interesting question. Which scholars should we follow? Oh, that's a tough one. You follow the scholars that have correct knowledge. Now the problem is, how do I know which scholars have correct knowledge? If I don't know which scholars are good, wallah, it's a tough question, man. You keep at it for long enough, you keep researching for long enough, you keep reading, you keep observing, you keep jumping from scholar to scholar until you begin to develop taste, and you develop your view of who you do believe is reliable, and who is a good scholar. When you start off, all scholars seem to be equal in level, in objectivity, but with time, you will be able to tell the levels of scholars, and who is better. Oh, honey, habibi, how you doing, bro? I'm so happy to see you here. Inshallah, you're doing all right, bro. I got excited. I got excited seeing Ali Rakabi. All right. What was okay? So Ibn Rajab's book is Sharh Ilal al-Tirmidhi. Amr, my main field is Ilm al-Hadith. That's my main field, and I do not feel comfortable talking about most subjects, because I'm not specialized in most subjects. But yeah, like Ilm al-Hadith is my favorite topic, and yeah, I'm alhamdulillah, I'm well versed in Sunni Shia polemics. All right, guys. Okay, so is it true that Abu Huraira has some hadiths that are problematic regarded by scholars? لا, لا. Anyone who has an issue with Abu Huraira was hurt by having an issue with Abu Huraira. Anyone who rejects Abu Huraira has harmed themselves by rejecting Abu Huraira. That's pretty much it. That's the brief answer to that. Hadiths about stoning is sahih. There's no doubt about that. I do not watch DBZ. I never liked DBZ. I think maybe I watched like an episode of DBZ when I was like 10. I'm not a fan. This guys, random questions, man. Free Kakakuta. You have a strange name. Why the Muslims they have a strange name? Allah barak fikum, guys. All right. Let me just share a link with you guys. Is this thing still on? Okay. I want to share a link with you guys because this is something that I recently worked on, and you know, I'm trying to do a little دعاية for it. Okay, so check this out, guys. This is an article I recently wrote on the 12vershia.net website. Please check out this article. It's about the Imama of Al-Hussein and why Shias believe in the Imam of Al-Hussein. And inshallah, you guys will enjoy. Yeah, I know this has nothing to do with what we're talking about, but you will see some critical thought put into hadith criticism by going through this article. Inshallah, you guys will enjoy. Okay, so if the link isn't working, I'm going to include it again in the description or in the comment. I'm going to pin it, inshallah. Okay. شوف يا أشرف حبيبي أشرف, in regards to the meaning of mutawatir, some say that it's more than 10, some say it's less than 10, some say it's 7, some say it's like 4, some say it's 20. That's the problem with mutawatir. Everyone has a different opinion on what mutawatir is. So therefore, mutawatir is, I'm not a fan. Oh God, guys, you guys in the DBZ references. I made like one DBZ reference, and khalas, it's over for me. People think I watch DBZ. You guys are so random. You guys are so random. What I'd like to do is I just like to sit down and read these random comments all night if I could, and just entertain myself reading the funky questions that I'm getting here about kaka. What was it? Kakakuta. Ihsan Ilahi Zahir has some good stuff, man. Ihsan Ilahi Zahir has some really enjoyable works. He wrote about topics that no one talked about in his time. So, oh man, Habibi Alui. Inshallah, you're gonna enjoy them. I need to get those. I stopped. I haven't done those in a while. Inshallah, maybe tonight. Maybe tonight. I'll make some noodles as well. Allah barak fik, Habibna. Are Dar es Salaam reliable in grading hadiths? I don't know what their gradings are based on, so I don't know. I watched Tony Ferguson when he was in what's it called, The Ultimate Fighter, and they all trash talked him, and he beat the crap out of all of them. Tony Ferguson's a tough cookie, bro. But everyone's rooting. All the Muslims got Khabib, ya akhi. So I gotta say Khabib. Um, Western scholars that I would recommend in regards to science of hadith, there aren't too many. Jonathan Brown is quite good when it comes to ilm al-hadith. Abdullah Mu'taz is really good when it comes to ilm hadith. I love Abdullah Mu'taz. And I enjoy listening to Abdullah Mu'taz's random audio messages that he sends me on the topic. And you'll find stuff with Abdullah Mu'taz you won't find anywhere else, even in the Arab world. So, he sends me a lot of fawaid that he's probably not going to share with any of you guys, and I hope you guys are jealous. And I'm going to die with that fawaid. I'm not going to share with anyone. All right. I don't know much about Umar Sulaiman. I don't know much about Umar Sulaiman, so I can't comment. Guys, by the way, I'm not I'm not what's it called? I don't follow what's going on in the Western world too much. These Islamophobes, these critics of Islam and their stuff. I don't follow their stuff much. But I see their names showing up in the comments again and again and again and again. I'm like, maybe I should check this out. And that's the only reason that I'm doing this. And I don't know much about the mashayikh in the West. I asked Abdullah Mu'taz about his thoughts about specific people. I know some good brothers in the West that I ask in regards to some mashayikh in the UK and the US, but in general, I'm not up to date. I'm the wrong person to ask about this stuff. I met Maher Amir, and I took classes with Maher Amir, and I studied under Maher Amir, and Maher Amir came to a lecture of mine, and we tight, bro. We tight. All right. If CP accepted my debate, I will make it as soon as possible. If he accepts tomorrow, I'll aim for, I don't know, like 2 weeks from now or something. Excuse me. As soon as I get a visa, I'm coming over. Allah يبارك فيك Safraz. Turkish restaurant in Rafah. Yeah, why not? Why not, bro? Why not? Would you mind telling us about the importance of Albani's Sahih? Albani's Sister Sahih al-Albani is a beautiful book. Very, very detailed. He is the Google before Google existed. Beautiful, beautiful work, mashallah. He quotes things that you cannot find anywhere else, and that's what makes him really special. And again, he revived the love for ilm al-hadith. Nobody had love for ilm al-hadith, or a very small number of people had love for ilm al-hadith until Albani came. When Albani came, love grew for ilm al-hadith when it didn't before. Al-Imam al-Siyasa by Ibn Qutayba isn't by Ibn Qutayba. It appears to be a book by an Egyptian author, wallahu a'lam, and it was incorrectly attributed to Ibn Qutayba. Yeah. What are my thoughts on Muhammad Hijab? What do you guys think? I love Muhammad Hijab. All right, now we're okay. Wallah Abbas, how do you explain the science of hadith to people who question it? By turning it into a practical matter. That's the easiest way of explaining it to someone, simply by turning it into a practical matter, picking up any random book of hadith, or preferably Sahih Bukhari or Sahih Muslim, and simply saying, pick a number from 1 to 5,000 or something, depending on whatever, and subhanAllah, showing them why we grade this hadith as authentic. And subhanAllah, it was like about a month or 2 months ago, a brother was asking me about that, and I said, choose a number. He gave me a number, I can't remember what it was, like 2,500 or something. And subhanAllah, the hadith turned out to be a sign of prophethood, evidence of prophethood of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And it was about Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam causing water to multiply. And I looked into the hadith, and subhanAllah, it was mutawatir. It was narrated by, I don't know, like five people, narrated by Anas, mainly by Anas. Like I think 4 or 5 people narrated from Anas, if I'm not mistaken. It was narrated by Jabir. It was narrated by Ibn Abbas, if I'm not mistaken. It was attributed to Ibn Mas'ud, I think. Yani, I can't remember who else. But subhanAllah, hadith turned out to be mutawatir. He chose a random hadith. It turned out to be mutawatir. And I just drew a diagram. I do a diagram including the names of the narrators and showing why we believe in this hadith, and the narrators on each level. And sometimes doing that helps. Doing that helps, and it shows why we don't doubt mutawatir hadiths especially, but why we accept authentic narrations. Why do almost all Western academics reject hadith science as an accurate way of ascertaining the Prophet's sayings? Well, they do this because if hadith sciences were legit, then that would be a big problem for anyone who doesn't believe in Islam. You would have to believe in Islam. That's the only alternative. Yeah. Yes. Roman Arabs charts. I remember stuff like that. It's good stuff, man. Yeah, showing sometimes just showing the multiple paths and multiple chains has a major effect on people that have doubts in regards to the reliability of reports. And the fellow called the atheist, what was it? British Pakistani atheist. Not all Western academics reject hadith. Yes, most do, but some do see the system as valid. I recall Harold Motsky having some good stuff. And to be honest, if you're going to reject hadiths, then you should reject all forms of testimonials altogether. You should reject all history, because if you're going to be that skeptical, you honestly should reject all history. British Pakistani atheist. I do believe that most most Western academics haven't really studied the matter thoroughly. I do believe that a lot of them are biased. I do believe that a lot of them have their hearts in the wrong place. And yeah, I mean, look at the criticisms, bro. Look at the criticisms. Read Schacht's work. Read the work of Schacht on hadith criticism, and Schacht is the father of all. All right, I think there was a minor disconnection there. All right, guys. I've been on for a while. This was fun. So I'm gonna bounce. It's kind of late. And inshallah, I'll see you guys soon, maybe in a video coming up in, I don't know, in a few days, inshallah. I do have some plans. Yeah. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.